of the South Korean government, we're going to talk about the election mismanagement and the ballot shortages that happen. So now university students are rising up. They're all expressing their concerns. Here, this post says 12 colleges, but as of right now, it's 18 colleges. Students from 18 colleges have been rising up, letting people know, hey, this is not, like, we're sick of this corruption. How is it that dozens upon dozens of polling stations had ballot shortages and that thousands of Koreans were not able to vote on election day? This is atrocious. This is unacceptable. Look, you see all of these students. 서울대, 서강대, 연세대, all these really great schools. And they're all putting their varsity jackets out and protesting, asking for a re-election, asking for investigation, for transparency. Good on them. Seriously, good on them. That is so good. And I'm so glad to see so many young Korean patriots rising up to stand against corruption and the incompetency of the current regime, the left-wing regime in Korea right now. But one thing we have to understand is, what are we doing this for? Like South Koreans, these young Korean patriots, they're all advocating for fairness in elections, which is good. Election security and election integrity, good. All good things. We don't believe in corruption. We believe in fairness. We believe in the rule of law as conservatives. But is it just for the sake of voting? Do we advocate for a re-election? Do we advocate for democracy and for every eligible voter to vote just for voting's sake? For democracy's sake? No, I don't believe that. We advocate for that so that we can win. The immediate goal of politics is to win. Why? So you win so that you can exercise power and you can carry out your goals in society, for the family. That's why we do politics. That's the whole goal of politics. We want to orient our society towards our goals. And in order to do that, we need to attain political power. But in order to attain political power, we need to win. You need to win. So then, why are we so obsessed with everyone getting the right to vote? Which, again, I'm not against it insofar as it exists, like universal suffrage exists for all people. Because if that exists, then yes, like every person should be able to vote, unless you change the laws. But we should change the laws. Like in America, universal suffrage was not a thing until very, very recently. The founders were very clear that we are not a mass democracy. We are not a liberal democracy. We are a republic. America is a constitutional republic with democratic means. But the president was not voted in by the people. Senators were not voted in by the people. Only the representatives, because they represent each district in America and their specific needs. But universal suffrage was never a thing. Most women at the time of the suffrage movement were against universal suffrage. They were against women getting the right to vote. Only 4% of women wanted the right to vote at the time. Why? Because voting is not a right, it's a responsibility. It is a privilege. But more than a privilege, it is a civic responsibility. And people who know nothing about politics should not be voting. And I think Koreans kind of understand this. That's why Korea we covered this on the last episode. The National Election Committee sends to every single Korean household a breakdown of all the candidates, what party they're part of, and their party platform, and each candidate's platform. But Koreans need to kind of reorient the way that they think about this particular issue. That this is not me trying to inject American politics into Korean politics. This is just politics 101. The objective is to win. So then the left understands this. The left understands this. Jae-myung, by the way, right now is in Belgium. He left to Europe during one of the greatest and biggest political crises in modern Korean history. He's in Belgium right now. He doesn't care. And you know when he's getting back? He's getting back June 18th from his European trip. You know when the deadline is to determine whether or not this election goes to re-election? June 17th. So Lee Jae-myung, during this whole period of ballot shortages, election mismanagement, voter impropriety, he just leaves the country. He doesn't even delay it. He doesn't reschedule. He just leaves. I don't care. Why? Why does he do this? Because liberals understand it's not about mass democracy. It's not about letting people's voices be heard. It's about winning and getting to office and effectuating the changes you want to see in your country. Liberals understand this. That's why they have no problem lying to you and being hypocritical. That's why they hold conservative presidents responsible for every single thing that happens under their administration, whether it's the Seoul Ferry incident, whether it's the Itaewon incident. They hold conservative presidents accountable and responsible for everything. But arguably, when there is ballot shortages by the National Election Commission under Lee Jae-myung, a federal agency, oh yeah, he doesn't. Are you stupid? You're stupid if you think the president has any control over the National Election Commission. They don't care. The left does not care. Liberals do not care. Their goal is to attain power and effectuate change. That's why every single society in the first world, they all move leftwards. Because when liberals get into power, they don't care about the hypocrisy. They don't care about being hypocrites. They just push through their agenda. Meanwhile, conservatives keep holding to, imagine if the roles were reversed. Hey, this is hypocritical. Look at this double standard. And then they hold on to abstractions of principle. You know, I don't agree with you, but you should be able to vote. Right? They always say this. I don't agree with what you have to say, but I will die defending the right to say it. No, I don't think. I think I want to shut you up if I disagree with you. Now, there's obviously a bandwidth of disagreement that's healthy. But if you're advocating to kill babies in the womb and normalize minor attracted persons, if you are saying, like we covered earlier today, that we should just kill all white people, I'm sorry, I don't think that you should talk. Like, we should do whatever it is, whatever necessary to make you shut up. Because again, like I said, the free marketplace of ideas does not work when one side is trying to destroy your life over holding very normal opinions. The left understands this. That's why they keep calling the right all of these words: Nazis, fascist. That's why in Korea, the left calls any normal right-winger kugu, which means far right. They associate normal right-wingers with the equivalent of the Korean 4chan site. But even worse, they're like, oh, super, super far right. Every single right-winger. They do this, and they deceive and they lie because why? Their objective is to win and to effectuate change. The right needs to do this too. Now, we don't have to sacrifice our values and virtue, but in order to win in politics, you have to play dirty. And playing dirty also might mean, this may be disenfranchising the enemies in your own country. For example, foreigners are able to vote in Korea if they live there for 3 years. Yeah, maybe we should disenfranchise their vote. Maybe Chinese nationals should not vote in Korean elections, even if they live there for a long time. No, they shouldn't. The right to vote doesn't exist for everyone because the objective is to win. So impartiality, that we should, yes, be impartial in areas that matter, but ultimately our objective is to win. So we don't want liberals voting. That's I don't know why that's controversial. We don't want liberals voting because they're going to destroy your country. It's a controversial take, but I am not a liberal. I'm not a libertarian. I'm not this free market. Everyone should have the right to do whatever they want and everyone should have a voice. No, I think mass democracy is a mistake. Not everyone and anyone and their dog should be able to vote. It is unsustainable for a country, especially when you have idiots and especially when you have people who want to destroy your country voting in your own elections. We need to vastly limit voting, in my opinion. And so the angle for this should not be that merely we should be wanting everyone to vote and having the right to vote, but it should be, okay, this is corruption. Yes, because the left is intentionally withholding votes from conservatives and not letting conservatives vote. But we should do the same thing as conservatives because we hold on to these abstractions of principles. That's why we lose. There's nothing immoral about not letting people who will destroy your country not vote in your election. There's nothing immoral about that. Seriously. It is actually righteous and just to do so. Because why? Your family gets hurt as a result. Your country gets lost as a result. Now they're trying to pass all these nonsense anti-discrimination laws, attack churches. We shouldn't want that. That's the priority to mock. I was like thinking in Korean. 그걸 막아야 돼요. Like we have to stop that. We have to prevent that. So conservatives need to wake up. We need to stop with this abstraction of principles because what happens as a result? We have Chinese infiltration into Korea. Now, how widespread it is, I don't know personally because I'm not on the ground. But in Jeju-do, the island south of South Korea, it's like Korea's Hawaii. Like you have Chinese people flooding in, singing the Chinese national anthem, waving Chinese flags. Look at this video. Waving Chinese flags, singing the Chinese national anthem. We showed you 2 episodes ago of a Chinese man assaulting, a Chinese national in Jeju-do, assaulting a peaceful Korean grandma protesting the results of the election. Right? We have examples of Chinese nationals becoming cops, examples of Southeast Asians becoming cops. Now, how many of these cops who are assaulting people on the streets and peaceful protesters are Chinese? We'll never know because they're all masked. But this is what happens when conservatives are so obsessed with principles while the left gets their way. They're able to infiltrate your institutions that you love in your own country with foreign nationals. You must reclaim your sovereignty, but that also looks like maybe playing a little dirty because politics is dirty. But if you hold the standard of, I want to be fair to my enemy, while your enemy does not hold that standard for you, you will lose. You will continue to lose. Now, I'm not saying get violent on the streets. I'm not saying be a corrupt politician. What I am saying is stop giving the benefit of the doubt to your enemies. Stop giving equal treatment to your enemies. That's not how you win. That's not how you win. You need to beat your enemies. You need to win in politics in order to get your way and effectuate positive change. And we know that this will be popular, by the way. Jae-myung's approval ratings have plummeted. They plummeted to 50%. Now, he used to be like, when he first got into office, like 70, 80%. It was really high. Now it's plummeted because of his mismanagement of the situation. Koreans are pissed. Koreans are pissed. And so now people all over the country are rising up. In Daegu, which is my hometown, by the way, where I was born. But in Daegu, we have people in Busan. Yeah, show that video. Right here, this is Daegu. So people marching in Daegu, people also marching in Busan. This is not just Seoul now anymore. Right here. That sounds like a fart. I think it's like the music in the background, but it sounds like a fart. Yeah, like they're marching. Koreans are pissed. They're like, what is going on with this administration? So as a result, no, people are going to clip that and they're going to be like, oh, he farted. So as a result, what should the proper response be? Well, like I said, the objective is to win. So right-wingers need to play to win, not play to, oh, it's not a left or right issue. Oh, it's not just about, like, I disagree with you, and I disagree with what you want in our country, but I'll defend your right to say, I mean, it's politics is getting to a place where that's not even feasible anymore. So you need to win. And if you truly believe that what you want for the country is best for the country, you will do whatever it takes to win. Like I said, don't be corrupt, don't be deceitful, don't lie. But also, don't hold to these abstract principles of universal suffrage and, yeah, everyone can just vote because I'm such a good person. Like, no, like that's not how we do politics. We shouldn't do politics that way. We need to win. 이겨야 돼요. Like, we have to. Now, that being said, the last thing I want to talk about this issue, which, again, by the way, in all of that, the youth has to be mobilized. So the People Power Party, 국민의힘, they have to reach out to the youth and give them substantive, tangible political solutions to help them. Right now, I don't even know what the People Power Party is doing. All they do is they just sit on their hands and just like, oh, look how bad the DPK is. Vote for me because the DPK is so bad. Okay, what are you going to do to allow for healthy family formations and community building? What are you going to do to industrialize dying villages and towns in Korea? What are you going to do to increase the birth rate so people aren't so freaking beat over the head by societal pressures in Korean society that disincentivize having children? What are you going to do to stop the flood of immigrants into Korea so that Korean citizens feel like a foreigner in their own country when they're taking a leisurely stroll through their local river, like river walk? That's what we need. We need tangible solutions. Yet the People Power Party is all just mouthing off about how the left is so bad, the DPK is so bad. That's true. But then what are you offering the youth? And the youth will go towards the side that has genuine solutions for them. The youth is on your side right now. Capitalize on it. Give them solutions, offer them solutions, execute those solutions. Yet they do nothing. They just sit on their hands and talk about how bad Jae-myung is. It's like, okay, dude, we get it. We get it. The DPK is bad. I think they're bad. But we have to have a positive vision for the future of Korea that doesn't only include the other side is bad. That's why you need to vote for me. The youth is energized. So the youth now need a solution. They need a leader to help them. That being said, I want to talk about this. There's this guy named Dr. Douglas Frank. He's a supposed election fraud expert, whatever that means. He's basically irrelevant in America. So it's like, I don't even know who this guy is. But he is in Korea right now, and he is protesting with them. But right now, he's saying unhelpful things like this video, where he's saying that the People Power Party is worse than rhinos, and that you shouldn't vote for them. Listen to this.
And he started this new party, the Freedom and Innovation Party, and all of you need to join it.
자유혁신당이라고 아주 좋은 훌륭한 정당을 세우셨는데 모두 이 당원이 되십시오.
Because he's the only party that really wants to fix your elections.
한국의 선거를 고치고 싶어하는 유일한 정당이기 때문입니다.
And we're working together. We go together.
우리는 함께 일하고 있습니다.
And he started this.
There's another video that he was on, what's it called? A show on Mike Lindell's TV broadcast, Lindell TV. And he says that the People Power Party is worse than rhinos. Listen to this.
There's a party here called the PPP. It's the largest conservative party in the country. I like to think of them as rhinos on steroids. They are establishment. They don't like this happening. They're saying, "Oh no, we need to just accept this and move on." What does that sound like, right? And they put infiltrators in the crowd to get people to stop saying that there's election fraud, just that we want to do a re-election. But no, the crowd, this crowd, there are people. I'm telling you, these people, they caught on right away, and they're yelling, "We want one-day elections. We want hand counting. We want there's tons of election fraud." And now the churches are getting involved. And this is something that's really different in Korea versus America. The churches are actually taking the lead. It's interesting. And in fact, I've been to 2 church services this last 2 weeks and 2 prayer meetings. This morning I was in a prayer meeting and 10 pastors came around and laid hands on me. They're sending me back to America. As you know, I'm returning to America 2 days from now, Thursday morning. And they're saying, please go back to America. And please, Dr. Frank, we're desperate. Please bring the Americans to help us. So anyway, it's interesting, though. The infiltrators are trying to get them to take the American flags down because they don't want it to look like they're asking for American help. They don't want the Americans here. Yet there's this strong alliance. So it's really interesting. There's like this political thing. But I got to tell you, the grassroots movement is strong and conservative, and they are our people. And boy, oh boy, do they want reform. The next big news, unless you want to ask me a question, I'll move on to the next big news.
All right. So he says there that if you see those videos, and by the way, this might sound really terrible. I don't know. I might even sound like a liberal saying this, but I'm gonna say it anyways. You know how liberals always talk about the white savior complex, where white people come in and they help impoverished nations like Africa, and they're like, "Oh, you have a white savior complex." Well, that's usually attributed to white people when they're just trying to do good things for people in need. But here, I don't want to attribute motives to this guy. I don't know who this guy is, but you can see just the grin on his face. It's just he has that white savior complex where Koreans are coming in, they're so desperate. They're like, "Please save us, Dr. Frank. Please save us." And he's like, "Oh yeah, like I'm the guy. I'm the guy for the job. Yeah, you need me." And he said in an interview too, people are constantly saying, "Please bring more Americans. Please bring America to help us." And that's what people like this incentivize. They give Koreans the illusion that America's going to swoop in and bail Korea out. They give Koreans the illusion that America's going to come in, Americans are going to come in and say, "Oh yeah, we're here to save you. Do not worry. Worry not, the citizens of Korea. We will come and save you from your plight and your oppression." No, America's not going to do that. Most Americans don't care what's happening on the ground in Korea. That's just the reality. He says that, "Oh, the church is taking the lead in Korea, which is very different than in America." What are you talking about? The church is arguably more political and involved in America than it is in Korea. You go to the average Korean church, they hate talking about politics. They hate talking about politics. That's why people like Segero Gyoe, Segero Church in Busan stands out so much, because they're on the front lines advocating for Christian values and civic engagement in politics. That's why they stand out, because most Korean churches aren't doing that. They're actually not involved in politics. American churches are a lot more involved in politics, whether it's left or right. Most Korean churches, they stay out of it altogether because they don't want to ruffle any feathers. And they like their tithe money. And a lot of pastors like that too in America, don't get me wrong. But it's just like crafting these narratives. And like I always say, like American left and right does not translate well to Korean left and right. It doesn't go hand in hand all the time, because we have different understandings of different words and philosophies. They hold different weights and mean different things. For example, like the history of black slavery in America is not going to hold the same nuance and weight it does to Korea, because it's just another historical event. That being said, because I don't like what's going on. And on top of that, he says, "Oh, do not vote for the People Power Party because they're rhinos. They're worse than rhinos." Like, are you stupid? The People Power Party is the only party that stands in opposition to the DPK to have total left-wing dominance in all levels of Korean society. Don't vote for them? No, you are just fracturing the vote. You know what Trump did, which was so great? He didn't start his own party. He went into the Republican Party and then he changed it. So now, the mainstream platform for the Republican Party now is mass deportations. He had changed the Republican Party and exposed the corruption within the Republican Party. But he didn't abandon the Republican Party. He didn't abandon the GOP. And conservatives, all large in part, did not abandon the GOP, no matter how milquetoast and swampy they are. Why? Because they are the only hope in a two-party system that we have against Democrats getting into power. So it's the same thing you have to do. By the way, there are tons of great Korean patriots who understand this. My friend, Paul Sungwon Kim of Ground C, great conservative commentator in Korea. He understands this. That's why he works with People Power Party politicians to effectuate change, to win elections. And you know what he called? He lost hundreds of thousands of subscribers and followers because people are like, "You're a sellout. You sold out to China. You're a milquetoast. Why aren't you standing with Hwang Kyo-an of the Freedom and Innovation Party?" Meanwhile, he's actually making change, and he knows the solutions. If you're dissatisfied with the People Power Party, you need to first have better primaries, run better candidates, but also go in and change the party platform from the inside out. But you're not going to win, and you will continue to lose if you continue to fracture the base like this. I'm sorry, the Freedom and Innovation Party does not have any influence aside from people who are in politics. For the average Korean, they don't even know about it. But do you know who they know? They know 민주당 and they know 국민의힘. And they know that those are the two strongest parties in Korea. And for the average conservative, the best chance we have at winning against the DPK is through the PPP, which sounds so weird to say PPP. It's like I sound like a little kid saying PP. But that's the thing. So I don't like people like this coming into Korea projecting their, oh yeah, America, we're here to save you. Meanwhile, they're just fracturing the Korean conservative base and taking all of that good, rightfully righteous anger, that energy, he's taking it and he's diverting it to the Freedom and Innovation Party, which is going to die out in a few years. And even if it does succeed, how long is it going to take to succeed? Years? Decades? By the time the DPK will have so much control over Korean society, they will completely make it unrecognizable and terrible for the average Korean. So I don't like that. We have to be better about politics in Korea. And I just don't like these so-called election experts coming in and taking advantage of the anger and the crisis that a lot of Koreans feel in Korea. I don't like that. It's like this is a guy who doesn't really know much about Korean politics. He doesn't know much about Korean history or culture or the Korean people. And that's the problem. Here's the problem. And I'll end with this. Here's the problem. Therein lies the problem of Korean right-wingers being so desperate for America to save them and loving America unconditionally. Because they can't see past their blinders of how certain Americans, especially opportunists, can leverage their political crises and problems to benefit themselves. And then in so doing, they subvert the conservative movement in Korea. They can't see that. So instead of always relying on America, America help us, please send more Americans. No, take Korea by the horns with your own two hands and change Korea. The energy is already on your side. You just have to take that mantle and run and work hard and fight for the future of Korea. That's what you need to do. Don't rely on Americans. You are more than capable. Be sovereign. Be a proud people.